Hey there, folks. I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. Now, before we get started, I want to announce that this Wednesday, I'll be returning to the happiest place on Earth, and I'll be having my sister Sabrina coming along with me during then. Anyway, let's get started with today's video. I'm sure most of you out there know about a novelist named Jules Verne, but for those who don't, Verne is best known for writing such classical adventure books like Journey to the Center of the Earth, Mysterious Island, From Earth to the Moon, Around the World in 80 Days, and our subject for today, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It's a story that depicts Captain Nemo's submarine, known as the Nautilus, which was built in secrecy and now roams the depths of the seas beyond the reaches of land-based governments. Now, to be perfectly honest, I haven't really read this book yet, but it does seem like a good read in my eyes. Anyway, you folks are probably asking, what does Jules Verne's underwater novel and Disney have to do with each other? Well, during the mid-50s, Walt Disney and Richard Fleischer made a movie based on the book, and that's what I'll be blogging today. Released on December 23rd, 1954, the movie is 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So, let's get diving. In 1869, Professor Pierre M. Aeronauts and his assistant Conseil are invited to join an expedition to search for a mysterious sea monster that's been said to be terrorizing the seas and sinking ships. During the search, they, along with harpooner Ned Land, are thrown overboard during an attack. Eventually, discovering the supposed monster is actually a submarine piloted by the brilliant but haunted Captain Nemo, and the trio then accompany him on a journey of adventure and discovery. So, what do I personally think of this movie? Well, despite the fact that I never really grew up with this movie during my childhood, I thought this felt very classical and thrilling. Yeah, it's a really good movie. And to further explain why I think so, let's move on to Mustang Notes. Now, this movie was Disney's first sci-fi film, and it was the only one to be produced during Walt Disney's lifetime. During November of 1950, independent producer Sid Rogel announced that he had acquired the film rights to the novel, as well as a film adaptation prepared by Robert L. Lippard's production company. He had planned to start shooting within a year at the General Service Studios. However, in December 1951, it was reported that Walt Disney had purchased the film rights from Rogel. The film was originally intended to be an animated adaptation inspired by Harper Goff's artwork, but the idea was scrapped in 1952, and it was decided that the movie would be in live action instead. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea was filmed at various locations in the Bahamas and Jamaica, with the cave scenes being filmed beneath what is now known as Zitabi Resort on the cliffs of Negril. Filming began in spring of 1954. According to the 2-disc DVD release of the movie, the San Francisco scenes at the beginning were shot at Universal Studios, while most of the modeling shots were done at 20th Century Fox, with help from Ralph Hamaras. Some of the location filming sequences were so complex that they required a technical crew of more than 400 people. The film presented many other challenges as well. For example, the famous giant squid attack sequence had to be entirely reshot, as it was originally filmed as taking place at dusk in a calm sea. The sequence was filmed again, this time taking place at night during a huge gale, both to increase the drama and to better hide the cables and other mechanical workings of the animatronic squid. With a total production cost of $9 million, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea was the most expensive movie in Hollywood to that date, and it presented a very serious financial risk to the Disney studios if it ever flopped. Oh, bonus fact. After the movie became a box office hit, Walt Disney and his Imagineering team made a walkthrough attraction in Tomorrowland, complete with all the original props and sets, including the pipe organ, the Nautilus, and the giant squid. The exhibit went on all the way to mid-1967, where it was replaced by Adventures Through Inner Space, which was then replaced by Star Tours during the mid-1980s. Plus, the movie influenced an underwater submarine ride at the Magic Kingdom Park in Walt Disney World, which lasted from 1971 until 1994. Fortunately, you can still ride it at Tokyo Disney Sea. Also, nowadays, all the original movie props are either considered lost or stored safely in the Disney archives. But the pipe organ, ever since 1969, can be found at the Haunted Mansion. You may remember, during my top 15 attractions at Disneyland Resort, I did mention that the pipe organ was one of 2 Disney Easter eggs that was featured in the Haunted Mansion's ballroom. The other was an old woman who used to be from the Carousel of Progress. Now, the reason why I said that I never grew up with this movie during my childhood is because a lot of old live-action films, including from Disney, didn't really leave a big impression on me back then. But now that I'm older, I can understand why this movie is considered as a classical family movie, next to others like Old Yeller, The Parent Trap, Pollyanna, and others. Plus, I think the Nautilus is a very breathtaking submarine, and I think the underwater scenery is pretty good for the time. And I'm also surprised that the crew used a massive indoor 18-foot water tank. And I also like that the film used CinemaScope for the then new widescreen camera shots. Special props to Franz Planner for providing the cinematography, along with Elma Williams for editing, and Emile Curie for decorating the sets. And I thought the giant squid attack was very intense for a movie like this. And now let's talk about the only song featured in the movie, A Whale of a Tale, sung by Ned Land. Now, to be honest, this was the song that introduced me to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea when I was little, due to it being featured on the Under the Sea Disney Sing-Along VHS. And in my opinion, this is a classical sailor song, and nowadays, whenever I listen to it, I can't help but sing and clap along to it. And now let's move on to the cast. Let's begin with Ned Land, played by Kirk Douglas, who sadly passed away last year at the age of 103. And not many people know this, but Kirk was a producer for Disney's 1983 thriller movie, Something Wicked This Way Comes. Now, I find Ned to be my favorite character in this movie, mainly due to Kirk Douglas' acting, and he was also a great singer back then. Plus, in my opinion, Ned is often depicted as taking action without thinking. Plus, Ned acts impulsively, sometimes with a bad result, but sometimes also heroically. Next is Professor Pierre Aeronauts, played by the late Paul Lucas, who won the Academy Award for Best Actor and the first Golden Globe Award for Best Actor Motion Picture Drama for his performance in the movie Watch on the Rhine back in 1943. Now, Professor Aeronauts is a scientist and professor of marine biology. He, along with his assistant, Conseil, were invited by the U.S. government to join an expedition in order to investigate a certain sea monster that's been terrorizing the seas and sinking ships. Now, I have mixed feelings for Professor Aeronauts. Yes, I like that he enjoys being free to examine undersea life forms from within the submarine, but at the same time, he's kinda arrogant, and he ignores the fact that he's trapped aboard the Nautilus. Also, he admires the scientific and engineering genius of Captain Nemo while choosing to ignore warning signs of the captain's insanity. Next we come to Professor Aeronauts' assistant, Conseil, played by the late Peter Lorre. I find him to be my second favorite character in the movie. While he ironically does not like to give advice, he does not like to take sides either. Although, what I like about him is that he develops a firm friendship with Ned throughout the movie. And finally, we come to Captain Nemo, played by the late James Mason, whom was in 1954's A Star is Born, 1953's Julius Caesar, and 1959's Journey to the Center of the Earth. In my opinion, Captain Nemo is a mysterious, interesting, and relatable character, always tending to keep to himself. Plus, he is a brilliant genius, having created the Nautilus in the middle of the 19th century and powered it using a nuclear reactor a century prior, before nuclear energy was ever discovered. As captain of the Nautilus, Nemo maintains a very serious, no-nonsense personality. He only shows extreme emotion while he's in solitude, as shown prior to attacking a warship and where he indulges himself in performing on the ship's pipe organ. By the way, for Nemo, music is both a passion and a torture, but at the same time, it's a reminder that he's still human. Nemo loves the ocean, and he's content to leave the people on the surface to their own desires, at least when he's being relaxed. Plus, since this is a Disney movie, I like that Captain Nemo has a pet sea lion named Esperelda. And now let's move on my final words. Overall, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is a classical live-action Disney movie. While I may not have grown up with it during my childhood, I think the underwater scenery is very breathtaking, the Nautilus is an impressive submarine, the story is interesting, the characters from Ned Land to Pierre Aeronauts to Captain Nemo are memorable, and I absolutely love the Whale of a Tale song. And after watching this movie, it makes me want to go back to my local library and read the original Jules Verne book once the COVID regulations are lifted. As for my rating, well, I'll give this film a 94% out of 100. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to join me next time as we take a look at Disney's newest animated adventure movie, which should be reaching my mailbox sometime this week. But until then, Mustang Power!